All right, it's 2025. What's today going to bring? What's this year going to bring? We'll talk about it. And another big change coming up as well. So, with that being said, hang around for the intro. Yes. Good morning. It is January 3rd, 2025. So, we are 3 days into the new year, and we've already had two terrorist events and freight volatility. So, not that those things are related, but anyways, good morning. Hope all is well. I intend on doing on the member side a overall numbers video of what I've dispatched this past year, and I think I can do a report where I can see what I did the year before. If not, I'll have to go to last year's video and do a comparison number. Did I do better this year in 2024? And will I do better this year in 2025? So we'll see. This is A throwing a link out there. So, but good morning. I hope all is well. We got our coffee here. So, and we got our medal. I got a brand new CD for my birthday yesterday. This is one of my favorite bands. I will be playing. It's still in the plastic. We'll be playing this on the computer and putting it in. So I have a digital copy. New Impending Doom. Mrs. A is digging it. Good deal. It is a good song. I don't have any physical media from them. It's all digital, but thank God for Spotify Premium, right? So we're going to talk about freights. I really didn't like. Shortly before New Year's, I had to find a couple of loads, and the rates were about the same. But I've been watching rate cons for the last couple of weeks for like trucking. I've been putting most of them in, and the last couple of weeks the rates have been pretty good. Primarily because capacity shrinks down, tightens up a little bit during the week between Christmas and New Year's. And CDN, you're in here. He sent me a synopsis of what he thinks 2025 is going to be. CDN, do you have time to come in to talk about that? It was late before I saw that text. We went to the Brazilian steakhouse for my birthday dinner, and it was great, of course. And I'm having the meat sweats, and I weigh about 10 pounds heavier, but I think if you follow me on my health journey, I'm going back to strict carnivore after today. So, but but I have not had a chance to really check volumes this week. Yesterday was really slammed for other reasons. I've picked up another dispatch client and was dealing with that, and then also helping Jeff manage the company. Jeff actually had to drive a truck yesterday, so it was like the old days, you know. Um, let's see what else. That's primarily it. I haven't been paying attention to YouTube now. I have noticed that my subscriber count is down, but my views are up. It's kind of weird. I don't know if YouTube's cleaning a lot of bots out or what, or I just suck. Yeah, so probably a little bit of both. And I noticed, so the big change that I mentioned in the very beginning is if you go to any video, there's an ask button. And so if you basically what it is you can have AI give you a synopsis of the video. So let's say there's a video that's 3 hours long. If you don't want to listen to the whole thing or watch the whole thing, you can do the ask and it'll give you synopsis of the video. So I predict a lot of content creators view time will go down because of that. And I did that with my DOT physical video, and it actually breaks the video down. Okay, here this person talks about, it calls me this person, whatever. Talks about you're getting your CDL and how important it is to keep it, you know, and it gives you the time breakdown of each talking point so you can go directly to the point. Because what, you know, and so that's kind of scary to me. Like it could be a convenient tool. AI is kind of a dual-edged sword. And my other phone went off. It's in the other room. And it's kind of scary, but it can be utilized. You know, it's like any other tool. You can use a hammer to, you know, build a house, or you can use a hammer to do things that you shouldn't do, you know, and so that's how I view AI. But you know, how is it going to affect YouTube? We'll see. Now, Facebook, it's already doing that. Facebook, let's say you read this post by somebody famous, and it's like, you know, like there's a few rock artists I follow on Facebook, and they'll put this post out announcing their new tour or whatever. And then you click on where the comments are, and there's this AI says, you know, hey, viewers are saying, you know, this, that, and the other, and some people have said this, that, and the other, and so you don't have to read through all 150,000 comments, you know. And YouTube has picked up on that, and they're starting to do the same thing when it comes to synopsis of the video. So, but yeah, I'll give you 10 minutes, CDN. Get the show started. I'll let you know when ready. One thing I want to point out before we do the hellos, I want to show the weather here. Let's get this on the screen. There's a pretty big system coming across. You know, I don't have the Weather Channel anymore because they're lame, but I do have Weather Nation. Weather Channel likes to name their storms. I'm not a bit, you know, whatever, but I have a name for this. It's called winter. So, and winter is in full force this year. If you're going across 70, you're going to have a hard time the next couple of days. All the way from western Kansas all the way across to eastern or western Pennsylvania. So just keep an eye on that. For my trucks going in and out of New Mexico, heads up, you've got some red flag warning, so it's going to be a little bit breezy. And then up here you've got the upper northwest and the upper northern states. Montana is a mess. Colorado is strangely quiet. Isn't that interesting? The rest of the country is all messed up, but Wisconsin and Minnesota and Colorado are strangely quiet. So, but anyways, if you're going along 70 and probably 44 and some of 55 and 57, you're going to have a tough day ahead of you. So just keep that in mind. This is for the next 1 to 2 days. So it's gonna get interesting. Hopefully we don't get too much ice. Now we live now if you zoom in on Missouri, we live right we're always on this line. I-44 has always been a weather separator. I've literally seen storms that north of I-44, it's a blizzard, south of I-44, it's a rainstorm. It's it's crazy how I-44 is a natural barrier when it comes to the weather. So we always our weather forecasts casters, our meteorologists are always challenged, and they put out, and it gets clicks to put out the storm models. It gets clicks to get everybody all riled up. I'm sure if I went into a grocery store today, it's going to be a madhouse because everybody's got to buy the bread and milk thing. For me, I'd rather have propane and water and enough dry food, just in case power goes out. But anyways, that's so if you're traveling on I-70, just kind of be aware of that. So, let me grab something. Let me go see what's going on with this other phone, and I'll be right back. And then we'll talk about. We'll do some hellos, and then we'll bring C in. Hold on. All right, we're back. Sorry about the delay. I had to make sure that wasn't important. It kind of is, but I think I can deal with it as we're doing hellos here. So, good morning, TK. Hey now, what is up? Desert Okie Pam, good morning. Trucking with Tom, what's up, man? How's it going? How's your health journey? I know that you were making some changes, and we had talked about it a little bit. So, if you have any issues, let me know. Covered wagon geezer, let's roll. Scott Rolla, good morning. Getting loaded in Cheyenne, Wyoming Walmart, then down to Fort Morgan to reload. Well, Wyoming doesn't look too bad weather-wise, so that's good. Cattleman, sorry, D at top of the top. Mrs. A with a great link. Make sure you check it out after my video. Good morning, loving the Sprite volume challenges. They're good. Roamland Services, good morning. I guess I should have said carrier capacity challenges. There you go. So CDN says, good morning, Steve. Hope Happy New Year. Really cold in Alberta. -15 feels like -32 Fahrenheit. Wow. Speaking of which, I need to get my email up here. That way I can send him a link. Oh, happy birthday. Thank you, Google. How very invasive of you. So far, my freight volume has been rocking. Good deal. CDN says he needs 10 minutes. Get Showstar. I'll let you know when ready. Wimpy McPote. Happy New Year. 2025 has to be better than 2024. I think it will be in some respects. TKM Express LLC. Good morning to all. WB westbound on I-10, Lottsburg, New Mexico. Yeah, New Mexico looks stacked up, so be careful. I think that's more northern, though. Morning, Snorelord in chat. Looking forward to new challenges of 2025. There you go. Hurricane Steve. Okay. Gary, good to see you. I'm in eastern Pennsylvania, Easton area. Old school trucking. Looks like I shouldn't grab that GA to Ohio load today. I mean, it could, but I mean, it might be a tough go for a minute. I'm heading to Georgia from Pennsylvania. Oh Lord. Yeah, let's take a look at that map again. If you can hurry up and get out of Dodge, I think you'll be okay. Cool down here, old school. Picking up the truck from the shop late today. Turbo went out right after picking up my leaving the house on Monday. Wow. That's a newer truck. That's a new truck, and turbo's already out. Man, good thing for warranty. It's not much warmer up here. Cheap freight hauler still had 6 months warranty. Oh man, you got lucky. You got lucky. Flatbed trucker, good morning. Desert Oak and Pam, happy belated birthday. Thank you. Reefer says 77. Good morning, everyone. Gary Cook, happy late birthday. It was a late birthday. It was. So let me email CDN. Make sure I got the right one here. Link. And if you guys notice, I don't put the links out public anymore. I'm not that brave. Between the trolls and people killing the conversation. There you go. All right, CN, I send it to you whenever you're ready. In a live before Christmas, I said y'all stay home. I'm quoting $5 a mile. I'm happy to announce I got 10 a mile while everyone was staying home. I guess I have to change my handle now. Expensive freight hauler. No, it's ironic. You have an ironic title. That's the whole purpose, right? So that's good. An ironic title. So, but let's look at volumes, by the way. Let's get the screen up here while we wait for CDN. So we're going to show a little bit of the 123 low bore and then also a little bit of DAT's volumes. If I can get StreamYard to work. You got to love StreamYard. They've upped the prices, which I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep StreamYard. I know that my subscription ends in March and they've literally doubled it. So now I make a little bit of money on YouTube, but not that much. So let me take a look at something while you guys take a look at that for a minute. I got to make sure that I'm not neglecting something. I know this is and I wonder why I'm losing so many subs. This is probably very riveting, doing work and everything. Of course, this one picks up today. All right. So, all righty. So when CDN gets in here, I will take care of this little issue. Let's see. Montana got some snow. Yes, Montana is definitely getting some snow. Cattleman. Scott Rollis has been playing in the snow for last week. Yes. Everything was going up except for rates, of course. I mean, yeah, that's the expenses, right? Let's see. Let's go to load availability. And we're already on load availability. Let's look at van real quick. This is your hot market map. Oh, Kansas is green now, probably because of the storm. But there's a ton of outbound coming out of Kansas. Let's see if DAT reflects the same thing. So let's refresh this. Yep. No, yeah. 477 in, 770 out. And on van, and 123's got 212 out and 111 in. So this explains why I was getting a little bit better rate coming out of Kansas yesterday, last week or so. Let's take a look at see what Kansas is doing here. All right, CDN, I sent you the link. cold up here in Minnesota and only going to get colder in the next few days. Look at this. Lenexa, Kansas, Rushville, Nebraska, $3,500, 581 a mile. Let's take a look at this one. Let's see what's going on with this one. Picks up today, delivers today. So there's obviously something different. Spray foam. Oh, need a drive-in, pallet jack, and driver assist. Delivery same day. I don't know if they're really paying. If they're really paying $3,500, go get that. That's a load I need. Crap. Somebody got a banger last week. Georgia, Nevada, 7,500. Yep. There you go. Let's see what the highest rate is on this one while we wait for CDN. Oh, here's a low paying $10,700 going to Missouri. 428 miles. It's always England Logistics. You guys notice this? It's always England Logistics that does that big, huge number. Put them on the top. I imagine they meant to say 1070, but you know, there's that. But anyways, even at 1170 or 1070, that's still a decent rate. So for a one-day run, picks up January 9th. Are y'all able to get over 3 per mile? Yeah, but I mean, a lot of it's short runs, so it's you know, the rate per mile is kind of a false number. You can get $4 a mile and only do $300 a day, you know. So I mean, I know somebody that just booked a load for $400 for 65 miles. So, you know, so I mean, it's you know, the rate per mile is, you got to look at your rate per day. 221 to go to Washington. Let's see, 3,500, 581 a mile. There's that Kansas to Nebraska deal. I wonder if they need a lift gate. I wonder if that's part of the price increase. 212 a mile, 3,200 go to Wells, Maine, out of Edgerton, basically Kansas City area. All right, so let's remove this and bring in CDN. What's up, my friend? Good morning.
Good morning. My audio okay?
Yeah, you're a little bit louder than me, but that's fine.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure why. So, Happy New Year to you.
Here. Happy New Year. I was. Oh,
hang on one sec.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
There, I was reading your text last night, and I thought this would be a great topic to talk about this morning. Can you go ahead and talk about what you wanted to while I take care of this one matter real quick?
Sure. All Actually,
right.
the very first thing I want to remind everyone is when it comes to tracking, I know that's always a contentious issue with many carriers that, you know, you get frustrated just saying, well, I'm providing care, you know, I provided the tracking link to the broker, or the broker wants me to have the macro point or trucker tools or whatever feature as used as tracking. So when we get these tracking links, whether from the carrier or through a tool, one of the challenges to be aware of is they only tell us where a truck is currently located. The tracking themselves, whether it's MacroPoint, Trucker Tools, or the carrier's ELD link, does not tell us any weather delays, mechanical breakdowns, the driver's logbook hours, if they have to stop and do a reset, when they're stopping. And basically the summary is, no tracking link tells any broker or shipper or anyone the ETA to the destination, to the consignee. So keep that in mind. Even though you may have done everything that a broker's asked of you, and you're like, why is this broker calling all the time? It's because they don't know when your driver or you are going to arrive. So please keep that in mind in 2025. Up your communication standards with ETAs. Like yesterday, I had a load and I'm asking for a ETA update. They just said current location, and then nothing. No further information was provided. So please keep that in mind, that just like, think of it this way: when anyone buys something from Amazon, the next morning you wake up, you log into Amazon and you check the shipment status. What are you looking for? One, because you just ordered yesterday, has Amazon shipped it out? Perfect. Once you see it says shipped, now your next thing is you're checking ETA. When is it going to deliver? What day? Is it going to deliver? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whatever day? But you're always checking that website. And if you have a FedEx package coming in for whatever it is, you're always checking that FedEx, and they have that bar across the top. It tells you, shipped, in transit, out for delivery, delivered. So everyone wants to know, when is my freight going to be delivered? That's what you have to do, is whatever technologies, even if the broker has you doing links and you're providing links, just know it doesn't tell us those. So it's winter, weather delays can happen, mechanical delays can happen. Please communicate the ETA for the deliveries. Okay. So that's one little thing there around communication. Before I give kind of my unscientific prediction of 2025 freight, what I want to encourage everyone is spend the time to know the freight you're hauling, where it fits in the supply chain for that customer. So if you're getting loads from the spot market or through a direct shipper, however you got the load, when you arrive at that facility, first off, identify, is this the company's head office? Is this a satellite warehouse, or is this a branch? Maybe the company has, 5 locations across 5 different states, right? So where does this fit? So have a piece of paper or a little notebook to start making notes, and then transfer this information into your TMS. But identify where, and I've talked about this last year and previous years, but I cannot emphasize this enough. Understand the supply chain of who you're hauling the freight for. If you don't, you're just moving your truck from point A to point B, and you're not getting yourself deeper into the supply chain of those parties. That's pure and simple. You need to understand, what is that facility? Where does it fit? Where am I taking the freight to? And who is that party? Am I taking raw commodities? Am I picking up raw commodities and taking it to a manufacturing facility? Am I taking finished goods and taking it to a distribution center? And how does that impact me? Because you say, well, what's the big deal? Why do I need to know about this? Because in 2025, FreightWaves put out an article, and I believe it's going to be the same. It's going to be a push by shippers, is multi-mode options of transportation to bring efficiency and bring costs down for freight for shippers. Okay, I'll repeat that again. Multi-mode options, where a carrier or broker or carrier can provide multi-modes of options to move freight between their distribution points within their supply chain to bring efficiencies, and most importantly, bring their freight costs down. The prediction in 2025 is that shippers are going to have to pay more for freight. Well, when shippers see that, they may endure it a little bit here or there to service their bigger, important customers, but they're not going to withstand that forever. Because guess what? If they have to pay a whole bunch more for freight, what does that mean? Sorry, I'm just going to lower this down a little bit. If they have to pay a bunch of money for freight, they can sustain it maybe for a little bit or pass it on to their end customer. But ultimately, if they have to see high freight rates throughout the year for no other gain service other than just paying higher freight rate, guess what? They have to either, they're going to change their ways to find ways to get the freight rates down. And if their particular area cannot get the freight rates down, then they're going to be forced to increase their product prices, and which could ultimately affect maybe their customers will stop buying from them. So that high paying freight that we were charging the customers, they could potentially lose. And then all of a sudden, those loads that you were getting, you're like, hey, that was a great load. I was getting paid really well. And the customer couldn't sustain that price. So they increased their product prices. And then their customers, they lost some of their key customers because they found a cheaper product to buy. So that's how important it is to understand the supply chain, because what you want to find out is, when you pull up to a dock, first off, identify, is that is that the customer's head office? Like there's an office on the, attached to that building. That's where all the accounting and their finances, all their salespeople are working from. And then they have a warehouse right attached to it. Or is this just a satellite warehouse? Their head office is in a different city and state. Try to figure that out. Look at the name of the shipper and then identify this warehouse by Googling. If you're not sure, Google the name of the warehouse. Sometimes you can tell, oh, this is a 3PL distribution center. Okay, so this customer has purchased 1 or 2 spaces, dock spaces within this 3PL distribution center. So find out what is this facility? The head office, satellite, the 3PL, whatever it is, just simply storage. Then just simply look around. You don't have to ask anyone. How many docks? If they only have 2 docks and you've been here before, and if you think back, when I was here last time, was there a lineup of trucks? If there wasn't a lineup of trucks last time and there isn't a lineup of trucks this time and there's only 2 docks, it might just be a small mom and pop operation. Now, this is where you could try to find out saying, oh, hey, are you guys doing mainly truckload, or do you guys also do some LTL? Like, what's the majority of the stuff you guys ship out? Some shippers will say, it seems like we do mostly truckloads. Or saying, I don't know, I'm new here, right? They might, you don't know. I realize it's not that easy, but make notes, ask some questions without being too nosy, but just trying to understand. And like I said, and then figure out where you're delivering to. Because sometimes when you have loads, you want to figure out who is the broker's customer. Is it the consignee, the shipper? And you know what? In a lot of cases, the customer actually might be a freight forwarder to the broker. The customer is someone else, and there's a freight forwarder involved. So there could be multiple layers. And the reason I say this is that my prediction essentially is that I believe this first month, to maybe even 2 months of 2025 are going to be hard. They're going to be difficult. I believe that right now, majority of the carriers who open up a spot market, whether within Canada or the United States, they wake up, they look at the loads, they look at the areas that they're most common to. Here, I can turn mine down a little bit, Steve.
No, I think that just changes your volume, not your output. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, that's true. So I believe that these first 2 months are going to be the most difficult. I can't say for beyond that, but reason I say they're going to be the most difficult. Just take a step back and look what's happening. There's a huge amount of shift from Asia to Mexico. A lot of freight starting to move there. The other thing is the whole thing that's happening with potential tariffs or not tariffs, but the seed has been planted around some big tariffs and the potential impact there. And right now, whether you've been paying attention to or not, the Canadian dollar is hurting huge. And what I mean by that is it's costing Canadians right now. The rate it was yesterday $1.44. I'll look in a moment, but it was $1.44, meaning when you add a bank fee, you always add 5 cents is the rule. So that means it costs Canadians $1.49 of our play money to buy 1 American dollar. So you think, well, what's the big deal there? That's the highest it's been in a long time. But put it from your perspective. If you were going to buy $150,000 of pipe, some kind of compressor engine, something, you're buying $150,000 of product from the United States, times that by 1.49. So that's costing a Canadian company $223,500. So it's almost a 50% increase. So the point is, if I'm a company that I've normally buy whatever $150,000 of product from my US supplier, right now in January and February of 2025, I believe that they're going to be looking, if I'm in Toronto and I'm buying this from someplace in Ohio or in Texas and bringing it to Toronto, I might be saying to my buyers and within my company,
I'll finish your thought.
Yep. Yeah. And I believe that companies are going to take a minute before they go ahead and make that purchase to say, okay, maybe there's a supplier in Alberta or BC or Manitoba that has a similar product. how much are they charging, and how much is my freight. So they're going to weigh all those options, because maybe the $223,000 is worth it, but depending on the cost of the freight. And the other thing you're trying to figure out is, obviously, when it's a smaller company, I tend to think that they have only a few brokers that they work with. But the bigger the shippers, the more that you don't realize, especially, I know Steve has mentioned this. Often you go to a facility and 1 week it's being booked by this broker, and 2 weeks later it's a different broker. Well, you know how that works? I'm going to peel back the curtain. Brokers are out there cold calling for shippers to get on, to get into their system. Well, here's what happens. When you call, some shippers say, sorry, we're not taking in any more vendors. Other shippers will say, what areas do you service? And they'll, go back and forth, actually give the broker some time, minutes of their time. And then over a course of 1 or 2, 3 weeks, the shipper says, okay, I'll give you a shot. And what they mean by that is they're going to put you on their list of available loads. So before you get to that point, the broker has to be set up as a vendor within their system. The broker has to approve the credit for that customer, and everyone's got to get each other set up. So once they're all set up, now they put your email on their list. So you're thinking, woohoo, here comes the money. But held tight. You wake up in the morning, you see that first email, and you think, great, wow, there's like 7 loads to work on. So you go out there and you're posting the loads and you're trying to figure out, and you're trying to reply to the customer. And you found out 2 hours later, those 7 loads, you got 0. So the next day, there's 9 loads. So you're out there and working on it. And guess what? That broker realizes after the 3rd day of trying to secure 3, 4, or 5 of those 9 loads, and then the next day it's 10 loads, and then it's back down to 5 each day. The volume numbers change, and a broker thinks, hey, I got to be reasonable to my carriers. I look at the lane, I look at the market, and I bid at this price. They don't get it. So they realize, then they find out one of their regular carriers that's a trusted friend of theirs, not a friend, but maybe they're a friend, but they're a trusted partner. They give this particular carrier a bunch of freight. Let's say, I'm a broker and I give Steve a whole bunch of loads. He calls me up and says, hey, Rob, I see you posting in this lane. I said, yeah, I haven't been successful, and I've been working at this lane to try to secure it. Let me tell you, there's 7 or 8 other brokers every day posting that exact same load. Aha. So the point of this little story is as simple as this. I would say about 40% of the freight you see posted are shippers emailing multiple brokers for rates of available loads, and they sit back and wait for the brokers to come back with the cheapest price. Pure and simple. Unless the shipper had specific timelines, and the broker who gives a reasonable price and has the best transit time, sometimes they'll pay okay. But in the cases of a bid load, like a spot market bid load, where an email blast is sent out by a shipper, and there's between 4 to 10 brokers receiving those emails, well, it's a race to the bottom. That's it. I cannot emphasize that enough. If you think waking up in the spot market and you see this load posted for $1,200 that you believe is valued at $1,700 or $1,500, right now you're not going to be getting that. You're not going to get much of an increase, because these shippers are being very hard. It's only January the 3rd. I've lost 5 loads already because of this exact situation of the bidding system. I bid what the carriers I know need to get the load. Did I win? No. These were loads that weren't time sensitive. So the shipper went with the most cost-effective option. So what do I have to do? I now know for the next little bit, I have to bid less. And I tell my shippers up front, the carriers up front, I say, when I'm talking to them, I say, take your rate and minus $400, $500, and then we'll be close. So here's what I want to present. When you look at the loads right now, if you know that this load, or you can see on the load boards that this load is being posted by multiple brokers, forget the idea of how much money can I make. You need to, if you're working the spot market for the next 6 weeks to 8 weeks, some lanes, if you know the broker and stuff, you could go out there and try to get it. But majority of the freight, you have to look at it and say, okay, what's the minimum I'm going to need to make enough money, not highest revenue, just to cover my costs and pay me a little bit of a salary. And if you're like, well, Rob, I don't like that idea. Then if you have enough money, if you've been banking money and you have enough, just park your truck for the month of January and wait for the market to change. But if you need cash flow for your business, have two mindsets. Some loads, yeah, you'll try to negotiate it up and you're going to say, well, the brokers are holding the money. This is why it's so important for you to figure out, because there's so much freight moving all over the country. You need to figure out who are the players. Is that shipper flogging it out to multiple people? If they are, and you can tell by the load confirmations where they're, if it's hard, fast, like the turnaround times are tight, it's very time sensitive, and there's rush and urgency to it. Okay, well then you can play that card. But when you're bidding amongst others, whether it's through, they have it's a closed bid where you got to go onto their app, onto the broker's app and bid on it, or you can actually talk to someone, or you have to email them. However it works, everyone's different. But the point is, you need to figure out each of these brokers you're working with. Is this load a bid load, where meaning the broker is bidding, they're trying to win the load to sell to you? Or does this broker have it in hand? The POs have already been issued to the broker. There's two different scenarios there, and I'll repeat this again. You need to figure out, when you're looking at a load, and if you know the broker, and through, I can give a couple other pointers there, but you need to identify, okay, broker ABC that has this load from point A to point B, from St. Louis, Missouri to Houston, Texas, and you see this broker. Is there other brokers posting? Because some brokers will play the games and they'll post nearby cities and so forth. But can you figure out if a certain load is being posted by multiple brokers or not? That's question one. The minute you can figure out, using Steve's techniques, to how to search and look at the load board, when you can figure out if a load is being posted by multiple brokers, that shipper sent out an email to 5-10 people, and they're waiting for the cheapest freight back. So when you're looking at that load, how can you conceive to call the broker and say, well, I see you posting at 1,200, I'll do it for 17. Do you think you're going to get it? You're not. And if you think so, and the other thing is, start to track. Use data. What are the big carriers doing, and the big shippers? They're leveraging data. It sounds really crazy, but starting today, have a notebook. Remember when we played War? You played cards, and you used to put 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the fifth, you cross the line. That counts in 5 blocks of 5. Yep. Start to do that. Create a sheet, win, loss, bid, loss, bid, wins. Okay. So today, if you called, every time you call a broker, put it in a spot, say called, lost, won. So if you called and they said the load's already booked, well, there's nothing there. Okay. Then if you called and they accepted, they said, okay, great, we'll take your number and we'll get back to you shortly. So that's a bid, right? And if they call you back, sorry, we got it, we found a cheaper option, or the shipper found the cheaper option, that's a loss. And if you won, you won. So at the end of this month, I'm hoping you guys can come back and have a notebook that gives you 3 pieces of data. Well, there'll be more than that, but just right now, on the process of getting loads. How many calls did you have to do? So make it each day, right? Put the days of the week, or put it in your calendar, but have a piece of paper. So today's the 3rd. How many calls did you have to do today to get a load? How many bids did you submit? So if you made 10 calls, you did 5 bids and you got the 1 load. Next day, so that you can get a sense of how much work you're putting in to trying to find a load that fits within the parameters of what you're looking for, right? Within the marketplace. So the more data, even though you're a 1 carrier or 5 truck carrier, You're competing against the big carriers. And what are they leveraging? Data. As you grow a company, the bigger you get, the minuscule things become they stay minuscule. When you go from, if you're currently a one truck operator, and then someone says, we're going to pay you $275,000 a year to run this 30 trucking company. We really like your style. Are you going to take the job plus full benefits and pensions? Of course you will. You'll park your truck for $275,000 a year. But when you hit a role as a CEO of a bigger trucking company, you have to be able to look at things at a large scale. What's the big picture? So 2025, the kickoff, I can't say further, but I believe that right now we have the inauguration on January 20th, and there's been a lot of things planted around trucking, around tariffs. We're dealing with the currencies, and we have issues within Canada where our current prime minister, there's a lot of pressure for him to call it's an election year in Canada, but there's pressure for him to be calling an early election. I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but the fact of the matter is there's political things in play. And I believe that people are, and there's the whole issue with happening with what they're calling nearshoring, right? There's been a shift to get, like, a lot of Asian companies are investing into Mexico, and now there's the potential risk of tariffs. So there's a lot of ambiguity going on and uncertainty of what's going to happen post January 20th. Is a lot of it just words, or is there a lot of action to it? We don't know that yet.
Yeah, it's early yet. I want to address Doug's question, but also I want to address something that's Cheap Freight Hauler has said. So,
okay, well, so let's address Doug's. Right now, I don't know the numbers in the States, but I can tell you that in Alberta, oil is full boom, 100% hard. It's every drill is, every rig is working. But with that being said, majority of you carriers, and including me as a broker, have no access to that freight. So unless you find someone, like, hauling oil field is a whole different beast. Being part of the oil field is a beast, and it's an old boys club. Sorry to say. It's just a reality.
Yeah. Most people I know that have gone to do that, they tear up their trucks and they usually get out. So I don't know anybody in the length of time that I've been in this industry. I don't know one person that has stayed in that field. Like, I don't talk to people like, oh yeah, I did the oil fields for 15 years. No, you never ever hear that. And
well, being part of an oil field, there's many ways to attack the oil fields, though. You have to be careful how, like, if all you're doing is hauling, a shipper may have, say, drill mud, okay, and they're pre-loading, they're pre-buying, and they're actually putting it on. They have 5 brokers because it's just going to a warehouse. Yeah, you could say I'm hauling in the oil field, but they're just hauling, they're pre-buying drilling fluid because they're trying to find cheap freight because it's just going to the warehouse. But once it's actually at the warehouse and they're taking it out to the sites, that's not, none of us are doing that. If you want to be in the oil field, you need enough equipment. You need to be able to move a rig, if you want to get your foot in the door with an oil field company, you need several different live roll, which is just a roller at the back of you need like the 53 high boys with winches. You need, and you have to understand the permits. You need all the training. You have to be clean shaven, full PPE, fire retardant coveralls. And there's sometimes some of them have special safety glass requirements, but you need a crew of drivers. You can't do this as a one truck operator. The only way that you can get in, the one way you can get into the oil field as a one truck operator, you're a hot shot. And you have a connection. You have a friend that got you in the door, and they call you. And when a valve goes down, you do the hot shot at 3 a.m. for them. And you're, hey, buddy, how's it going? And you get paid $130 an hour round trip.
I think the opportunity that I took advantage of during the last boom was I was hauling steady parts that went out to Odessa. It was parts that came out of Tulsa and went to Odessa. It was driver assist. That was good money. But like supplies that go to the places that supply the oil fields, that was, you might see an influx there, but that's been my experience. Let's go to Dan's hot shot.
And the other one I was going to say,
Actually,
lastly,
no,
about,
let's go
oh,
to
go ahead.
CFH first.
Cheap. Okay.
So,
But I was just going to say, lastly, on the oil field, you have to also too understand with oil field, like there's a facility up in Fort McMurray called Syncrude. Not only a preferred carrier is allowed to go in there. Syncrude has a list of the carriers, and carriers always ask me, how do I get in the list? Takes 15 years, maybe more. And you really got to know people.
yeah,
Like once you're on that list, you're gold, but getting on that list is hard. So I have some customers that like, here's the backdoor way that if you can get a contractor, because see, there's oil field is multiple things. If it's a small rig on the side of a highway that's 10 kilometers or 10 miles off the highway, and there's a rig with a crew, you have to be so tight with that groups. But if you're talking oil sands or bigger drilling jobs, maybe you can get your foot in the door, but you have to understand how the intricacies work. If you want to be part of that, if you want to jump into the oil field because you hear there's good money, you have to find your oil association within your state. You need to sponsor them. Like if you really want to get into whatever industry, whether it's oil field, medical supplies, food industries, and you're struggling to get into there, within your state, find that industries association, the Missouri Food Association, the Texas Oil Field Association, or the local one in Houston. Go out there, reach out to them. When's their annual conferences? Pay the money to attend. Sponsor them when they have a golf tournament, etc. Sponsor. You want to be part of it, you have to be prepared to pay to play. Pure and simple.
All right. So let's go to Chief Freight Hauler. One truck carrier shouldn't tell a potential customer I go anywhere when asked, what's your areas? My thoughts, I'd like to hear CDN and Snorelord's thoughts on this. I wouldn't use that term, I go anywhere, unless you actually mean it. I would ask the customer, what areas do you need to service? And so I wouldn't put it out there, well, I'd do anything and anywhere. Well, then that's an open invitation to throw anything at you if you're willing to do that. I had a while back, we had a driver that was here a couple of years ago, and they called me up and said, hey, I've got a potential direct customer. I said, okay, what are they? It was food out of Seattle. And I'm like, okay, well, are you willing to service this customer? No, I don't even run up there. I'm like, well, then what leverage do I have if you're the only truck that lives in the area and you won't even go up there? Then what's the point? So that's my thoughts. It's like, don't say it unless you mean it, but I wouldn't even put that on the table until you know what they need. What's your thoughts, CDN, as I do another thing for work?
I believe that when you're a one truck carrier, I would say when they ask, where do you service? You can ask them what areas can you serve? Like what areas do they need the most help in? Because there's a couple of things. One, I encourage smaller carriers to stay in a certain area. Why? Well, even in like Canada, we obviously have more harsher winters, but many parts of the United States have bad winters as well. Staying in a certain area, you get to know the players, you know the roads, you know how long things take. When a shipper says, pick up at 4 and make it for 8, and they say, oh, yeah, we got a carrier that will do it. No, you won't. I've been driving that road for 5 years. I can tell you that that's impossible, whether it's due to the mountains, whether it's due to the hills, the traffic, whatever the factors are. When you know a lane and a shipper says something, you have ways that you can explain to them saying, hey, you know what? Hey, that's a pretty lofty goal, and here's the reasons why. I can make it for this time realistically without breaking, the laws of my logbook, speeding, etc. But or either right when someone's talking about timelines, that's how you got to sell it. So you're selling yourself, and then see when you start focusing on the services you provide in an area, because then you get to be known. Now, once you're with a shipper and they say, hey, we got a load that it's outside your typical wheelhouse, and you're like, yeah, I could do that for you. and because maybe you did it when you were at a previous company or something like that. But here's the thing, even if you come up and you use that, I'll go anywhere. And they say, great, I got a load from here to somewhere's 1,100 miles away. So you're out there, you're about to deliver you're at the receiving place 1,100 miles away, and they call you saying, hey, we got another pickup for you tomorrow. Well, I won't be back for 2 more days. Oh, well, I thought you said you go anywhere. Yeah, me, I go anywhere. I only have one truck. Oh, we didn't realize that. We have another load that needs to be picked up tomorrow. So now all of a sudden your ranking in the perception of that customer has just dropped, right? So that's the way that when you look at it from a customer standpoint, is what service can you provide to that customer that they can rely on when their sales rep comes back, has a customer that says they're in urgent need of this, or they just want a new customer, and it's this area, a certain lane, and the shipping person's standing there and they're in a boardroom or in the warehouse or wherever, and they're having a little meeting about this. And the shipping person can say, I've got the carrier, or I've got the broker that I can rely on for that in that lane. And they think of you, cheap freight hauler, saying, hey, we got this lane that we're going to be starting to service. And I know it's maybe 100 miles outside of what you normally do. And you're like, yeah, that's not a problem for us. And so you have to judge it. There's no clear-cut answer other than to say, when they ask you, where do you service, you can give them your current areas. You could call the regions, I guess, but I would use more questioning to gain more information before I commit to it's a bit of a political game, right? Because you don't want to lose the customer, but if the customer is expecting like what their expectations are and you can't fulfill it, then that's why asking the questions, because maybe the customer says, well, I need this, this, and this. And you're like, okay, well, I can do that, but I got 2 other carriers that if I talk to them and I'll see, maybe they can check if you're credit worthy for them. Now you can bring on 3 carriers that could accommodate them, right? But just remember, the biggest challenge with one carriers is that you're only one carrier. And so if you break down or have a problem, you can't rebroker that load. So either you have to, when that happens, like say you do have a load that's 1,100 miles and 700 miles into the trip, you had a breakdown. You call the customer saying, yeah, I'm broken down. It's going to take 3 days to repair. And they're like, yep, that's not a problem. Cool. So you can get repaired and carry on your trip and make the final delivery. But if they're like, that's really unfortunate you broke down, I'm sorry to hear that. However, my consignee needs it. They have a crew of 10 people waiting for this product. We can't wait. Now the shipper, because you're not a broker, the shipper has to take on the onus to either find a broker, or they have to find another carrier to come and either hook up to your trailer, make the final delivery, return it, or they have to arrange a cross dock to get your trailer picked up, brought to a cross dock, transfer the freight, make the final delivery. So when you're a one carrier, and this is why we've had others always encouraging small carriers to get a brokerage. It's because in the United States, the laws are a carrier, even if you have 20 trucks and one of your trucks breaks down and you don't have no other drivers in the area to make to go power up that load and finish it, you have to basically turn the load back to the shipper, which some shippers are okay with that and some aren't, because they want life to be easy. And that's what brokers sell to shippers, to make life easy for the shipper, that they can carry on the core functions to their job. So when a problem happens and a carrier calls me and says, I've got a problem, I know the sense of urgency on this load. And I know then if I have to react by either getting another carrier that's going to just hook up to your trailer, I have to verify that whether you're willing to allow that to happen. Maybe it depends how far away you are from the shipper. If you're only 100 miles, you might say, yeah, just hook up to make the delivery and come back. But I need to ensure that carrier has non-owned trailer insurance, right? So there's little steps involved there. But the point is that, so you have to kind of, potential customers, all I can say is 1,000 questions. You need to gather information and knowledge. That's really the key. And this goes back to what I was talking about. Every time you're doing a load in 2025, if you have not done, maybe you've done all this and you've done your homework and you know what's what, great. But if you haven't, right now for the next 6 to 8 weeks is the core time, learn not just taking a load from point A to point B. Understand, get as deep as you can. I cannot emphasize that. Why? Because when the market shifts in maybe March and prices are higher and you've built some solid relationships with some of these brokers, you're going to say, well, these guys, I can't communicate. It's your job. Do you think shippers make it easy for brokers to get through? Absolutely not. It's each of our jobs. How hard do we want that business? Use your data from last year. Who are your top brokers or people who paid you money? How many? Look at it both ways. Those that paid you the best, because just because you have three brokers or two brokers that always paid you the best, but they only gave you one load a month, versus another broker who paid you average, but they're 80% of your volume. That's your bread and butter. You have to, every business, you have to figure this out. And you have to look at both your volume brokers and your profit brokers, right? Who you need both. And if you have never met them in person, 2025 is the time. Get a load in their area, because remember, my head office is in British Columbia. I work in Alberta. Now, if the carrier said, we want to meet at your head office, I will catch a flight. Because you know why? I just looked yesterday. I can catch a flight for $150, $200 to my head office, right? I will be there. I can be there the next day. And now, if I go right now and book today for tomorrow, it might be higher. And if it's summertime, I can drive there in 14 hours. But if they're going to be in Alberta, yeah, I work from my home. But guess what? I have a coworker. I have an office that I can meet people. I can bring them to. I just did that this year. I brought a carrier and we met at that office. Or if you prefer, I'll take you for lunch. But if a carrier called me and wants to meet, either I'll drive to their town, fly to meet them. Like I'll meet in the middle if it warrants it. But that's your job. You need to figure out, how do you get into the face of those people? And if you have anyone that you did 20 loads for last year, I highly, highly encourage you. You got to set up a face-to-face meeting, because when you can sit down with them, thank them for their business, talk about their favorite football teams and baseball teams, whatever, the little stuff that helps connect you. Oh, your parents went to school here? Oh man, my parents went there too. Or you grew up in this town. Find the commonalities. Look on LinkedIn. Look at their backgrounds. But the ultimate goal of this, you are building the relationship. You're building it for the future. So you need to hone in on the data that you have from last year. And right now, take those numbers. And if there's a brokerage on your bottom list that only did 1 or 2 loads, and they have a whole lot more, because the ultimate goal is that you're trying to get that freight that brokers don't post on load boards, so that you're in their special list. You're on their special list. How does that work? It takes time and effort. And we have 65 agents across our network. And if you said, well, how do I get in? You got to work through each agent. There's no one way. I can tell you that right now. It's not like I can say, well, yeah, I got this agent. I know some of the agents. I don't know. I know the agents, but I don't know all their lanes. I know some of them and some of their core lanes. And I can say, yeah, call here, but I'm not allowed to give out agents' numbers. I have to put you in contact through our carrier setup team. But the point is, there's ways. It's how much effort and work you're doing. And as I mentioned before, when you have a load with a POD, before you submit the POD, and if you want to talk to them and set up a meeting, whether it's just a quick phone call to talk a bit more about their business, and you have a POD, call them up and say, hey, I need to talk to you about the POD. I guarantee you, tell me if I'm wrong, come back in a week from now, this week, do that little test, and then you can put the egg on my face. But from today, the 3rd, to the 10th of January, or the week, like to the following Monday, the 13th, every time you have a POD, I want you to email the broker or text them, however you communicate with the broker, and saying, there's a problem I need to talk. Don't say there's a problem. Just say, I need to talk to you about the POD. Can you please call me? And tell me do a quick survey. I did 10 loads. How many brokers did not call you? And if I'm wrong that they wouldn't call you, okay, egg on my face. But I'm pretty confident that 80% of the brokers are going to be picking up the phone and phoning you. And that's when you can phone and saying, hey, I just wanted to thank you for the business. Maybe you found some, oddball thing. Give them a nugget. Small nugget because they took the time to call you like, hey, did you know with that shipper, they actually don't need appointments. They told me it's all first come, first serve, even though you had the appointment. Like I got there and I sat there for, how much time. So just give them a small nugget about a shipper's procedures that they didn't provide you, or the consignee's procedure, like, hey, the address that you give is actually the driver's entrance is on this side. Just give them a small nugget, right? And it's all about your time and effort that you want to put in. And the other thing is, go ahead.
Oh no, you got one more thing. Go for it, and then I was going to say something.
And then just right now, I know you're probably not going to like it, but don't just focus on the highest rate. Look at it from the weight of the load, the commodities. If you've been following Steve's tactics on how to study the market, and if you've been working the market yourself and you know certain loads are certain commodities, but they're not paying the best right now, but you know that would help you in your operations, maybe you have to do one load that's a little bit lower and see what all the noise is about. And then the last thing I was going to say, and then you can cut in, but the last thing I can emphasize, like really focus on your wait times. I know that some of them say there's only 30 minutes. These guys take a month to pay for it. I don't care. Make the brokers pay your wait times. Okay. Make them wait past if you get to the shipper, text them, email them, however you communicate with a broker, arrived. And if you arrived at 9:45 for the 10 a.m. appointment, say arrived at 9:45 for the 10 a.m. appointment, if it's an appointment time. So the appointment time starts at 10. Don't wait till 12:15 or 12 to tell the broker I'm in waiting time. At 11:30, 30 minutes prior to detention begins, put out a message. And if you want, there's a tool called Text Expander or Text Blaze. Text Expander, Text Blaze. Go to my YouTube channel. I have a video about that. But go out there and you can use that to help create. But if not, just text the broker. Teach your drivers 30 minutes before the detention begins, just politely. Driver's been at shipper since 10. It's now 11:30. Detention begins in 30 minutes. You've done your due diligence. And at 30 minutes at the 12 o'clock mark, detention has now begun. You're going to see if you do this consistently and you have the documentation to follow it up, you get out of there at 2 o'clock, it's 2 hours of detention, right? And if you know facilities tend to have it, make sure before you ask the brokerage, let me remind you, a lot of people sign up to a brokerage, they scroll through that agreement, click accept because they want to quickly get a load, and forget that within that agreement, some brokers, like for my brokerage, each load is negotiated. But other brokerages will have it where they put a standard, we pay $30 or $40 an hour detention. So you need to remind yourself with this brokerage before you say to the agent, hey, I need detention at $65 an hour. Double check your contract that you signed before you say that. That's all I can say. But do your diligence and get paid your time.
All right. So Jerome Jones has a question. Now, if you're a one carrier operation and you say get your brokerage, would that be a red flag on highway? How do you avoid that?
It is, yeah, it can create because the issue is I think, Steve, you can kind of attest to this. The issue with being a one carrier operation and a brokerage is addresses. That's the issue. When you have two businesses at the same address, that's your issue. So you would need a separate office as your address, and your business has to be completely separate.
And you need a different name.
That's right.
Because once your name is flagged, then it's hard to get that off. So
like ideally,
and your phone number too.
Right. Ideally, see, remember, just put it this way. You've got subways. Steve and I can go out. I go out, get a Subway. I go to Subway school. Both Steve and I go to Subway school together. In fact, we both bought businesses, Subways. 2 years later, we bump into each other and how's it going? I said, yeah, I'm still running my Subway, just doing my business. Every day I go there and I do my thing. I said, how's it going for you? Oh, I've got 6 locations now. Different mindsets, right? Steve went to
Yeah.
Subway school. He learned the business quickly, and he went back to Subway and bought a second location. Can he run both locations? He cannot. He has to hire people. He's building a team. So that's what, when you're running that brokerage, you have to have everything separate. I'm not an absolute expert how to do this. I know Sage would be the one that maybe could provide some better insight one day for you. But basically, ideally, what would happen is you build a brokerage separately, and be it your spouse or someone else that you got working on the brokerage for you. Because here's the reality. If you only have one truck and a shipper says, well, I need 7 trucks. So you think, okay, I'll put one of mine on there. If you've never been a brokerage, good luck driving your truck and booking 6 more or 7 more loads for that shipper while you're driving the truck. Good luck.
Yeah, that's absolutely
What's the saying? Godspeed on you. Is that the saying?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, that's like a wartime thing that they say when you're about to go and potentially die. But I'm just saying, like, if you want to be a broker, here's I guess I'll say to Jerome this. Jerome, if you've never worked as a brokerage, here's what you need to do. Keep running your truck, build up enough income, start saving some money, put money aside. Once you have 3 months of living expenses that you have to cover your wages, park your truck for the 3 months, just keep paying your insurance and so forth. But park your truck, and you can, if you can, cancel your load boards, whatever, as a carrier. Find what during this next 3 months, find a broker agent who's willing to mentor you and bring you on, or just try to become an employee at a brokerage where they are paying you minimum wage plus a little bit extra if you cover their loads. But go work at a brokerage first before you go open your own brokerage. Because if you've never done it, and you're a one truck operator, and if you're a one truck operator and you were never a dispatcher, a dispatch manager, an operations manager, or a safety manager at a trucking company, if you've never done outside sales, whether you worked for a food company, you worked as an account manager at Coca-Cola or Pepsi, you're an account executive for some company, Cisco or something like that. If you've never done any of those things, do not go and open a brokerage.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. Well, sir, I appreciate when you come on and give us your insight. I'm sorry I was present for part of it, but you know, I figured this would happen. Fridays are always slammed for me, but I wanted to get a live feed this week. But
well, can I just? I'll summarize if you want, just so that it's fresh here before we get on. I'll let you finish. Sorry to cut you off there, but I just wanted to summarize. There's a Freightways article that multi-mode. So that's why I talked about at the beginning. Understand the shippers. Don't just look at it and say, okay, they got 20 docks and truckloads. Ask them about the LTL, intermodal. Some of the shippers will say, yeah, those 2 docks over there are dedicated for intermodal. Okay. And then they might say, yeah, we do a bunch of LTL, and you'll see Saia trucks and Averitt and Old Dominion trucks in there. So you want to understand this. How does this all work? And the reality is that not one brokerage, not one carrier can sometimes do it all for those shippers. But I believe that 2025, the rates are going to be pushed because carriers' costs are higher, right? So carriers are not going to take that on. But at the same token, those shippers are going to push to keep their costs in line. So there's going to be a real battle in this. Now, supply demand will kick into play. But again, until I think we won't, even January the 20th won't tell us what the trucking market's going to be like. It's going to be March is when we're going to really see what shippers are doing. We'll see what shakes down, because if these true tariffs are truly in place, which I think is just more of it's a seedling, a conversation starter. But if there were high tariffs being imposed on Canada and Mexico, there's some factors there. We don't know the full impact, but just so right now, study your market, get to know your players, position yourself so that when someone has a project or a job, that they're thinking of you. And I mentioned this before. I've done it with DIY. I've talked on Steve's here numerous times. Are you present in the marketplace? Well, yeah. What does that mean? If you run flatbed or dry van in your state and some brokerage is Google searching flatbed carriers in this state, can they find you? Do you have a web presence? If you don't, it doesn't have to be complicated, but a one-page website. But you need to, I know it sounds bad, but you need to hire a website company. Why? Because they're going to they're going to work with the analytics so that where else can you post your services, your truck? Because I used to, a quick side note, there used to be this website, CanadaTransportation.com or something. I can't remember what it was. And my first brokerage, we were small, and I convinced them to get a website, and I set us up on that process. And we had a web company, and they would call us every week with analytics and everything else. And it turns out that one place I listed our freight brokerage services, 50 people would go there, and then they would click the link to come to our brokerage. 50% of the traffic that came to our website was from that one directory. So being a part of a directory matters. There's no one silver bullet. You just create a website and magic's going to happen. No, you have to be listed on various directories. And like I said, there's so many avenues. We won't get into right now, but you have to make yourself present. Remember I talked about LinkedIn. You need a LinkedIn if you're a one carrier operator, you need a LinkedIn carrier page, and then you need your LinkedIn personal page. And I have a topic about that. I've done videos about this, and I've been on with Snorelord, and I've been with DIY about this. But you need presence. LinkedIn, websites. You don't have to necessarily have YouTube, but obviously it can help you. You can do a YouTube company channel where you just promote your services, make 3, 4, 5 videos. But the point is, you need a presence. You need to study the market and be prepared to adapt to the coming market. I believe there's some good money to be had this coming year, and I believe there's going to be great opportunities. But I think there's going to be some tight, competitive marketplaces for the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, we got to get through the muck before the clear water. So bottom line is be open-minded, think outside the box, be professional, and be observant. That's pretty much what I try to do every day. So, but CDN, I've got your link up here in the chat. If you want to check out CDN's channel, I highly recommend it if you like the information he's put forth today. CDN, it's always been a joy bringing you on. I appreciate you very much, and I hope you have a good 2025.
You as well, and I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, man. We'll see you later.
See you later.
All right, that was CDN Freight Broker. Make sure you check out his channel. By the way, we didn't do too much on the low boards today, but if you want to check out the 123 low board, 48065 is the code. You can check it out for free for 30 days. Look at all the tools. If you're new to the spot market and you want data and you want observation, it's a great place to do it. I use it every single day, and that is the truth. So with that being said, strength for today, hope for tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see you Monday. Look for a video on the members only page of my year-end numbers, and then also maybe a guitar jam or two on the Snorelord OG channel. So anyways, peace.